One, and we're live for a new episode of the Electrek podcast. I am Fred Lambert, your host, and as usual, I'm joined by Seth Wintraub. How are you doing this week, Seth?
I'm good.
I hope you're good because we have a lot to discuss and a lot of Tesla news to start with. A lot of very specific Tesla news about new prototypes and new product sightings or potential prototypes in one case. But we're gonna jump into it because it's really interesting stuff that's gonna give us some insight into what to expect maybe from the giant electric automaker in the next few months to the next few weeks, really. Uh, First thing we're going to jump into is this magic dock. So that's the thing that we've been expecting for a while in order to enable the supercharger network to work with non-Tesla electric vehicle in the US. Of course, last week it was the big announcement with the White House that Tesla is going to open at least 7,500 charging stations in the US to non-Tesla electric vehicle. And now we've been waiting on the actual implementation of that. So Tesla needs to have this. We knew that the solution was a magic dock in order to include the CCS adapter station. And now the first station are starting to pop up with that. And we have the first pictures of it. So in these pictures, you see here the actual bigger receptacle for the connector. But we got a better one here thanks to our reader, Kenny, that sent us the picture. So you have the receptacle here. The Tesla connector goes right in there. And this connector is locked normally. So it just serves as the regular receptor for the Tesla connector. But if you're an electric vehicle owner, a non-Tesla electric vehicle owner, you show up to that charging station. Through the app, you can have it unlocked. And then as you pull the charge connector, it pulls with that CCS adapter. And then you just have to plug that right into your car and you're charging, which is basically as close as the frictionless experience that Tesla owners already have at a supercharger station. So this one specifically is in Western New York State, but they are popping up all over all those charging stations around there, basically around Buffalo, around Syracuse and all that, which makes sense because that's right next to Gigafactory New York and Buffalo, and that's where Tesla is producing these new superchargers. So it makes sense that Tesla gradually install them as close as possible to the factory. Maybe soon enough, you're going to be able to, on your way back, maybe even from Vermont, when you go back from Vermont to New York, you might be able to see one.
Yeah, there's a Clinton Corners one on the Taconic on the way down. And also I got a tip from where I live, which is in Westchester, New York, that it's some Audi was charging at a Tesla with a magic dock. Although the guy didn't get good pictures of it. It's just like an Audi behind it. I'm like, dude, you got to get a picture of the thing hooked up. You can't just have an Audi parked at a Tesla station. It doesn't help anybody.
Well, what I think it's probably that's Tesla's car, most likely that's happening, because the same thing happened here with the Redditor that spotted it in the New York station. There's a Rivian R1T at it, and as the Tesla owner arrived, the faceplate of the supercharger station was off. So that means that Tesla most likely just changed it. So it looks like there are brand new stations that are being installed with this, but it looks like Tesla is also retrofitting existing station with the new adapter. And it looks like that's what happened in this case. And then it couldn't get too close because it looks like Tesla was testing the charger with a Rivian R1T. Because if you go on Tesla's website too and you look at the specific charging station, it doesn't yet say that these stations are open to non-Tesla EV owner just yet. So I assume that's going to come relatively soon. Tesla also need to implement the whole thing through the mobile app for people to be onboarded into the system, because you're going to have to add a credit card, obviously. But that's about it. Like, you just create your Tesla account in the Tesla app, add your credit card, show up to whatever station you need, and unlock it through the app. You're done. And it's going to happen pretty fast, looks like, because I already heard of 3 or 4 stations in New York. So we'll keep an eye on the ramp up, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens pretty quickly.
Now, specifics, I don't know if we know this yet, but are they, we talked last time about how they could put them at the outside stations so that they're not blocking other stations. Do we know? I mean, that one kind of looked like it was an outside station.
That one was that, but another one that I saw, that they had several of them, if not all, the charger at the stations had it. So and so far, it doesn't look like Tesla changed anything on the actual cable. So that's a bit of a bummer, because Tesla Supercharger cable is already short. And if you have a car that doesn't have the charge port exactly where Tesla's is, yeah, you're gonna have some issues in terms of how to park without blocking any other chargers.
The length might be
And
harder to change than we're giving credit for because, they have to pump that fluid through there, the cable to cool it
hmm
as well.
yeah,
So it might not just be like, hey, get a longer cable. It might be, you have to upgrade the pump and the fluid and all the other stuff.
yeah, that's fair. Also, like these also looks like V3 superchargers. We've been hearing about the V4 with the different design, the higher capacity, and all that, and also potentially a longer cable. No, definitely a longer cable actually. So I don't know what's the hold up with that. Why they're not already switching to that. And the Magic Dock is maybe more of a solution for the existing stations. It's not
Hmm.
clear, but we'll keep a close eye on that because I wouldn't be surprised if V4 arrives soon too.
Yep.
The other big announcement for Tesla this week was this California. Well, at first they called it the California Engineering Headquarters, but it sounds like they are. It's going to be global engineering headquarters that are going to be in California, and it's basically the old HP HQ in Palo Alto, not too far from where Tesla but I mean, I don't know what they were calling the former headquarters at Tesla anymore, like since they've been moved to Texas, but they still had their same buildings where the former headquarters were. That was used for a bunch of different teams, including engineering, finance, and other people. So now, uh, I think they're going to move a lot of the people there too, but they also have way bigger buildings now on the HP HQ that's going to accommodate the thousands of people. And these HQ is a little bit more in town in Palo Alto rather than the outside of town. Like the former HQs were basically at the edge of Palo Alto. Not much information were released in the announcement. Like the Tesla had first an announcement with Elon and Gavin Newsom at the location. They had basically only banalities to say. They didn't say anything concrete. Then Tesla had its own announcement after that with, again, Elon making a speech. But again, they were like, it was extremely light on information. It's just like, hey, we still love California. We're still doing things in California and whatnot, just trying to get closer to it. But no actual like actionable information, I think, that came out of it.
Yeah, it seemed a little bit uncomfortable, or maybe a lot uncomfortable, since Elon's been very harsh on Democrats and very harsh on
Yeah,
California Democrats and California in general. And then, you have standing next to him the Democratic
governor.
governor of California.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, that guy was awkward by himself too.
yeah.
At one point, he started complaining about his salary for some reason.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
got weird. But I
I'm
feel
pretty
like
sure he said,
there's so many guardrails in place. Like they can't talk about, anything. They
yeah.
can't talk about Twitter. They can't talk about. So it's like, it just, it felt very awkward the way it came up. Like,
But it made
you know,
Elon sound a little bit more like the old Elon for a second. Like he only focused on like, yeah, the mission at Tesla,
right.
like the environmental impact and all that. And then of course he added some sweet talking about California, like all the engineering talent that it's there and whatnot,
Right.
which kind of wanted
Also,
to be nice, I
you
guess.
know, going back to HP, Apple took a bunch of HP buildings
hmm
to make its headquarters as well. It's kind of funny that all of HP's old stuff is turning into like these big corporate headquarters. Do we know if they're going to keep the buildings that are there, or are they going to bulldoze
Yeah, that's
those
a good
over?
question. I'm not sure. Again, they didn't mention anything. They didn't go into the details. I would assume that they would keep them, just because of how fast they were growing. It makes sense to just add to it, and it also like Tesla already had partially moved into those building in those HP building. They've been buying them up, not I guess leasing them up since 2021, and over the last few months they secured a bunch of them more. Now they are like taking over the whole thing basically. But so it's not exactly like a complete move, I think. But we'll keep an eye on it, and if anyone knows anything, you can always send it my way, and I'll report it. One thing that was interesting as part of, like I said, not much information to report on this, but there was a new corporate video that Tesla produced as part of the announcement that sort of focused on all the things that Tesla does in California. So obviously Fremont factory, the former Palo Alto headquarters, the design studio in Hawthorne, the supercharger, the Lathrop mega factory, the Kato battery cell plant, all that stuff. And as part of that, there was one image. Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong one here. There was one image that caught a lot of people's attention. So I'm going to show it to you right now. It's just a quick shot from the design studio in Hawthorne, where you see a bunch of design drawing from Tesla. And one of those drawing is interesting because, well, actually two are partially interesting. So you remember this drawing here that was supposed to be a very early design drawing of the next Tesla vehicle. Some people call it the Model 2. Some people that call it the $25,000 Tesla. It's the new Tesla that's been supposedly designed in China, engineered in China, and most likely also produced in China. I don't know exclusively in China, but at least to start with. And it's supposed to be based on the next generation platform that is about to be unveiled next week. So because of that, there's a ramp up of like, all right, we're definitely going to see the next generation platform next week, or we're going to see the first vehicle to use that platform. So the rumors have been ramping up on that. And in that video, you see that design drawing here, right there. And on top of it, you see another one that you cannot assign to any other Tesla vehicle. And then there's this blue one on top. This blue one you can potentially assign to the Model 3. I know it looks shorter. It looks like a two-door, but we've seen Tesla do that before with early design drawing of a new car. The focus is on the overall lines. They always have giant wheels. They not necessarily have doors at all, or if they do, it's just two. So I'm not so sure about this one, but potentially. This one's a little bit harder to place here. It looks a little bit more like a hatchback. Like a little bit closer to the original one here, albeit maybe a little bit more refined, I would think. Obviously, both still early design drawings. So it sparked up some rumors that might be the next Tesla, the Tesla hatchback, Tesla Model 2, $25,000 Tesla, however you want to call it. And then went threw a real wrench into the whole thing, and we'll get into it because it's confusing. I don't know if it's true. I don't know anything. I'm just gonna state the facts, and you guys can make your own decision because we don't have any insider information on this, and it's been confusing a lot of people, myself first. This car has been spotted in China a few times over the last few days. The car itself is strange. It's very confusing. First of all, it has this obvious camouflage on it, this camouflage wrap, and Tesla is not known for using camouflage wrap on its vehicle. So that's kind of the first red flag. But at the same time, it's the first car that Tesla is developing out of China. So maybe the team there is doing things a little bit different. So that might explain that. But still, I would classify that as a red flag. Now, the vehicle here clearly has Tesla design features. The front end, very much a Tesla front end. The wheels, Tesla wheels, obviously. Headlights, Tesla headlights. Front fender has a camera that looks like the Tesla camera from the Autopilot self-driving suite of sensors. So all good. But after that, when you go in the back, that's where things change completely. It looks like a Mazda CX-30, like exactly like a Mazda CX-30. Actually, not exactly like a gas-powered Mazda CX-30, because they launched in China an electric version of it, and it's a bit different. But the gas one, it's almost identical to it, like as close as it gets. So again, it's one other thing that's a red flag, because Tesla is not known for using bodies from other automakers. It's not unknown for an automaker to use a different body as a test mule for a new vehicle program. That's not unknown. That has happened. We have never seen Tesla do it.
Not since the Lotus Roadster.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, the Lotus was the Roadster was based on the Lotus, so that made more sense. And eventually, like, they just phased out a lot of those parts. So that might be something similar. But with now Tesla being its completely different automaker since then and building everything from the ground up, it would be so surprising that they would do that. At the same time, the CX-30 from Mazda is about the size that we would expect a Tesla hatchback to come out now. So it could make sense if they are just testing the new generation platform, that they would put that in and think that, okay, that's going to be about similar size, similar aerodynamic performance, similar weight and all that. That could add up. But again, it's a bit of a stretch here. At the same time, like the big question that you can ask is like, if it's not a Tesla prototype, even though it has Tesla wheels, it has a Tesla front end, it has Tesla headlights, it has Tesla fender cameras, like what would it be? Like it's certainly not a Mazda. It's not a CX-30 from Mazda that they're putting those design features on it. It makes no sense. And I don't have a strong answer to that. My only thing that I was thinking that makes me not report this completely as a Tesla prototype is the way that it's been introduced. So the first images came out like 2 days ago out of China, reported by a bunch of Chinese blogs, and they were taking it like 100% it's a Tesla prototype, calling it the Tesla Model 2 and all that, based on nothing more than the images themselves. So you cannot put too much weight in that. My idea, like it could be a potential, like a kind of prank, like someone trying to influence the market in some ways, in doing that. Like it's pretty elaborate, I will give you that though, but still. And then what confused me more is that these pictures have not been shared on those. It's not the same sightings as the ones that are in China. They were sent to us by someone, and that person doesn't want to be identified. But that person sent the pictures to us claiming that they were taken on Cato Road in California. And I challenged that with them because I don't recognize Cato Road in there. And also I see that the car on this picture is right here, the car in front has Chinese plates. So why would the car in front has Chinese plates? I don't know. It makes no sense. Probably not taken in California is my guess here. So why would that person send the pictures to us? Which I think the picture are legit. The pictures show what they show. It's just I don't think they were taken in California. Why would they lie about that? So that kind of added another red flag to me. That's like this is some kind of prank. But the car is real. The car is like, if it's Photoshop, it's the best Photoshop I've ever seen because there's been tons of different sightings over the last 3 days.
Yeah, different angles, different scenes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have any insight on this, or are you just as confused as I am?
I'm as confused as you are. I haven't been, pondering it as deeply as you, but like to me, it seems like, maybe Tesla built, is testing aerodynamics of something, and they just put their new front end on a Mazda body or something. I don't know. I mean, the door handles are kind of a tell. Like, I don't think Tesla would make Mazda door handles. So I don't know. It's a good question. Like,
if it's a prank, it's the most elaborate
yeah,
one I've
it's a
seen
lot
about
of
Tesla
effort.
so far. Yeah,
Like
but at
whoever's
the
doing
same
that
time,
prank should.
they think like you think they can influence the market a little bit. But I mean, the size of Tesla stock at this point, it's pretty hard to make it move with this kind of news. Like it would need to be reported. I mean, a bunch of other publications reported it as fact. It's the new Tesla and everything, but not big ones as far as I know. Like the more serious ones, like ourselves, that did report on it, put some skepticism on it. So didn't move the market that much, I think.
Yeah, and Tesla's been pretty open about their plans to do it, so it really shouldn't influence the market.
Yeah, but that's also something on the con side of things here on the list. Do you remember Tesla vehicle other than a Tesla Semi that has leaked before the original unveiling? I don't think I do.
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean,
You've seen the Model 3, like you had all the details of the Model 3, but no pictures. Like the pictures haven't leaked,
right.
Like, they didn't show it. So we had that at Electrek, but Model Y never leaked before, even though like it was basically the same thing. Model X didn't leak before. Model S, Model S, there was a lot of early prototypes that were unveiled way before the final version, so there's maybe some of that, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and they weren't even trying to keep that secret. They were showing it off.
Yeah, basically. All right, still on some not prototypes. This looks like production version, but the Hardware 4.0 suite of sensor for Autopilot has been spotted on new Model X and X at Fremont factory. This news is coming thanks to the Kilowatt on Twitter. He just showed up at the factory, started looking at a bunch of cars, smartly looked at the cars that don't have the ultrasonics on them, and then started looking at the cameras on those. And sure enough, he saw some updates on the cameras. So for the fenders one here on the left, you have the new one versus the old one. So it looks like camera. The lens is a tiny bit, a little bigger. In terms of the fender, it does stick. It does face more towards the side of the, like outside the car, versus the back of the car. So the old ones, you see the angle is more towards the back. This time is more on the side. This is the one on the B pillar. So this one has very similar angle, but you can see the lens being a little bit bigger than the old one. And then you have the front-facing cameras, which, as the Green reported last week, based on the computer, the new hardware 4.0 computer, it apparently confirmed that there's just 2 cameras in front. This time, it's not clear from this setup, but we're gonna have. I'm gonna trust Green on this one. Normally, he's right about this stuff. So it looks like it still could be 3, but one of them could be a sensor, a different kind of sensor. I don't know. It's not necessarily a camera. Then the one here near the plates in the back, the position changed a little bit. It's a little bit bigger again, but that's about it. Nothing crazy. Speaking of the back too, we see the different badging in the back. Nothing crazy. We've saw that update from China already. It's a slightly different badging for the Model S and X rear end. But yeah, I mean, my expectation at this point is that next week on March 1st at the Investor Day, we're going to see Tesla announce the new suite of hardware, the new computer, the new cameras. Everything's going to be announced, and they're most likely going to announce that it's in all new Model S and X being produced right now. I'm not so sure about Model 3 and Y. I would assume that it's coming now with the Model 3 and Y, because otherwise that would be a weird move from Tesla, because as we know, a lot of people are going to be wanting to wait for the new hardware.
Yeah, do you think the price drops recently are going to be reverted when the new hardware comes out? And that's kind of like a not a bribe, but like a way to placate somebody who's missing out on new hardware and just bought it while you got it for $5,000 less or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, in the US, it's going to be a weird situation, because you have that does create some hesitancy from people. But at the same time, so this is March 1st, it's coming, and it lives a full month of still the full tax credit, and that can be a $3,500, $3,750 difference, $3,750 difference, depending on if Tesla is eligible to the full one once the battery material guidance come in play. So they might be playing that too. They may be playing like, yeah, you get if for example, if it's not a Model 3 and Y for whatever reason, they can be like, okay, starting next month, maybe it's going to be a Model 3 and Y, but for now, even if you don't want them, but you prefer to get the full tax credit or something like that. I don't know. There might be some of that at play. It's going to be a weird situation, I think. I think the most likely outcome is they announce that it's on everything, and we just haven't seen Model 3 and Y yet. It started with Model S and X. That is the most likely explanation, but I don't know for a fact.
Yeah.
All right, staying on Autopilot and full self-driving beta, the release note for the latest V11 update have been out, and Tesla gave such of a better explanation on what's happening with V11. Well, first of all, this is basically the recall update. So there's a lot of things in that release note that discuss the thing that we discussed last week with the supposedly recall of FSD Beta, and addressing the specific dangerous behavior that NHTSA has identified in the in this, like, again, what they're calling a recall. Really, what we can argue against that. So Tesla is basically addressing that in the release note, which I think they kind of made a point of it in it. Like they were like, okay, since it is kind of the recall update, it was probably going to be in that update anyway, but they made a point to, like, we're specifically addressing this, and that. But what I find more interesting, and probably more interesting for most current FSD Beta owners, is especially the one that are concerned that are not super big fans of the FSD Beta. And as we know, the V11, the big thing is that it's going to merge the stack with the Autopilot stack, and now the Autopilot is going to rely on the neural nets that are in FSD Beta to operate. So if you're a big fan of Autopilot, not a big fan of FSD Beta, this should be concerning. So what Tesla writes in this is, enable FSD Beta on highway. This unifies the vision and planning stack on and off highway and replace the legacy highway stack, which is over 4 years old at this point. Yeah, so that's the good part, I guess, because like Tesla is like we haven't worked that hard on this in the last 4 years, so you should be happy about that. But again, still place on be skeptical because of the quality of FSD Beta right now. The legacy highway stack still relies on several single camera and single frame network and was set up to handle simple lane-specific maneuver. FSD Beta's multi-camera video network and next-gen planners that allows for more complex agent interactions with less reliance on lanes make way for adding more intelligent behavior, smoother control, and better decision-making. So you know what? For everyone that's been following my reporting on this, I've been extremely skeptical about this, and I've been fearing this update. But Tesla is kind of winning me over slowly on this because basically it's starting to look like what we've been experiencing in FSD Beta that we don't like is also partly because it is so much harder in city street. Like the conditions are harder and all that. So having this, having the same capacity, the same neural net apply on a highway, it should be a lot easier for the system to handle it. So we might actually start to see improvements relatively fast. But that's the thing too. Like we have to keep in mind that we've seen FSD Beta be a 2-step forward, 1-step backward kind of program. So and we've seen Tesla just remove capacity a lot. Like we've seen it recently with removing the ultrasonics. Then people are like, yeah, what our parking our distance sensors are not working anymore. Like the vision hasn't caught up to the ultrasonics yet. So we're screwed with that. So it might be a situation like that too. So I'm not 100% optimistic, but I'm feeling a little bit better about it. I don't know about you. I know you're also a bit skeptical about this.
Yeah, I really want to see it before I make any judgments, but I'm willing to obviously give it a try. And it is kind of weird the way it's coming out, being both a update but also a recall.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that's going to play out.
Yeah. As part of the update too, Tesla is adding a voice feedback. So they say that you can, when you can press the camera and you can send Tesla like a feedback on, especially you can let Tesla know something wrong happened here. You should check this specific part of my FSD Beta drive. They say that now you're going to be able to add voice feedback to that, which makes sense. So should have been there since the beginning, I think, but now, so when you click on it, now you're going to be able to say, hey, this is what happened. Fix it, please.
Yeah.
I guess. So this is a good update, I think, for that. All right. 2 more Tesla news, then we move on to non-Tesla news, guys. I know you guys want to talk about other things too. We do too. I see we already have a bunch of questions lined up from the audience, but if you have any more questions, please put them in the comment section right now. We're live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You just put your questions in right now. We're going to get to them in just about 25 minutes, I guess. Also, if there's other subjects that we didn't discuss today about the EV space that you want to discuss or ask us specific questions, you're welcome to do so. All right, so Tesla has signed a new deal with Magnus Energy Technologies to secure anode active materials, also known as AAM. So it's a graphite, basically. It's an anode-based it's a graphite-based anode. Sorry. And Magnus is interesting here because it's not just a mining company. It is primarily a mining company that has projects in Brazil. It's an Australian-based company with big projects in Brazil for both lithium and graphite. And the interesting part, though, is that they're also part of this consortium out of New York, known as the Imperium 3 New York Consortium, that are building a gigafactory in New York. So they're part of like 4 or 5 companies together that are using the C4V solid-state battery technology. So it's an interesting new partner for Tesla to have in Magnus. That is a big part of that partnership. So even though right now the deal is solely to secure that anode material, and not only to secure it, but to build it in the US too. So it's coming from Brazil, but it's going to be processed in the US. So the deal is contingent on Magnus securing a final location for their facility by June 30th this year. So they're going to start the pilot plant by March of next year. and the first deliveries are expected in 2025. So if it all goes well, Tesla's going to be able to have anode material coming out of the US, which is obviously a big deal for the tax credit program that we previously mentioned. And at the same time, it gives them like an in that potential gigafactory out of New York. All right. Still on Tesla securing battery material, there's been rumors going around that Tesla is one of the potential bidder on Sigma Lithium, which is another Brazil-based lithium supplier that is in sort of early pilot production right now. So it's not, it's still, I don't know if they still consider that a junior miner. I mean, it's worth $3 billion at this point, so it's not that junior. We've discussed Tesla potentially buying a mining company. They've been mostly reluctant about that. Tesla is not big on acquisition, especially large acquisition, and ever since Solar City, I should say. But Solar City obviously was kind of its own thing with the whole being operated by Musk's cousin and Musk being chairman and all that. So it was its whole separate deal. There hasn't been a very big acquisition still. Maybe Grohmann Engineering out of Germany, that was like a $300 million one, but this is 10 times that. So Sigma has this big deposit that they have a lot of claim in Brazil, and they are in pilot production there. So they're fairly advanced. So normally that's when things start going crazy for a big miner that has secure lithium, when they start moving from pilot production to commercialization. That's where the big cash cow coming in, because it's basically printing money at this point with the lithium prices have been going up so much. So Tesla has talked about before getting into the mining business themselves. They have a claim on 10,000 acres in Nevada, but as far as we know, they haven't done anything with that since announcing it in 2020. And then 2 years later, Elon did say that he was open to Tesla potentially buying a mining company. He said Tesla wouldn't buy another automaker, but buying a mining company might make sense. And now Bloomberg reported this week that Sigma is taking in offers right now for a potential buyout, because the main investor in the company is looking to get out, A10 Investimentos, Brazilian private equity fund. So the rumor is that Tesla is one of those potential bidder. No more than that right now, but still interesting, because we have never seen Tesla get anywhere near that kind of close of an acquisition in the mining space. And obviously Tesla has been building its own lithium mining processing facility. So not mining, lithium processing facility out of Corpus Christi, Texas. So if they do secure that it could make sense for Sigma or the new Tesla lithium basically to send the raw lithium to Corpus Christi and then process that into cathode material. Moving on to some Ford news this week. So Ford has been lining up new battery partners in the last few years. Of course, SK Innovation has been the main one. There are giant plants in the US being built with them, the Blue Oval and all that. That's all SK Innovation out of Korea. Then last week or the week before that, we reported on Tesla doing a partnership with CATL for some LFP battery cell out of the US. Now they're partnering with LG, so they are basically have their hands with all the biggest player here, minus maybe Panasonic. And it's going to be a new factory that they're going to build out of Europe to supply their ambitions for electric vehicle production there. And it's going to be a fairly large plant here, talking about 30 to 45 gigawatt hour. And they're looking at Turkey. Oh, no, sorry, that's the SK Innovation one. There, 25 gigawatt hour, 25 with an option to ramp up to 45. And did they say that they have a location yet? No, it's in Turkey. Like, it's going to be in Turkey. That's what I thought. Okay. So in Turkey, Ford, LG partnership with Cock Holding. Is that really there? Is that really the name? Yeah. I mean, it's written 25 to 45 gigawatt hour of battery capacity, so enough to produce hundreds of thousands of vehicles per year. And we know that Macan has been doing pretty well in Europe.
Yeah,
of
it's been
course,
doing
build.
well, well everywhere. We know that Ford is also still a little bit tied up with Volkswagen in Europe
Yeah.
doing MEB platform vehicles. I wonder if that's going to be part of this equation here.
Hmm. It could be. All right, Porsche. We had some new Porsche news coming out, new prototypes being spotted, and we kind of been waiting from Porsche because like Taycan is a few year old at this point. We thought that there's gonna be another. Well, I mean, technically there's a Taycan and then there's Taycan. What do you call it?
Foster Ismo and
Cross Turismo. So, but it's pretty much the same car, like pretty damn close. So we expected that after that and after the success of the Taycan too, because it's been a very successful program for Porsche, that they would move on to their next EV. And of course, the Macan was the one that we were waiting for because it's a crossover, small SUV, and that's a very popular segment.
yep,
I think it's Porsche's as the gasoline version. It is Porsche's most popular vehicle too. So you would think that that would be coming, but they've been delaying it for a while. And now there's been, we know that when they start doing winter testing, Arctic testing, it's generally one of the last few steps toward bringing the vehicle to production. And now both the Porsche Boxster and the Macan as electric version have been spotted winter testing. Um, they say in the Arctic Circle, so I would assume like it's Norway or something. Doesn't specify it, but so we've seen those prototypes before though in Germany, been tested in Germany. The Boxster version, I don't think it's going to be close to what we're going to see in production. It looks like they are using a test mule for this, but still they're testing the form factor. And the Boxster going to be exciting because there's Boxster. It depends on what kind of price point they come in at, because
right,
the Boxster is the cheapest Porsche.
right.
And sorry.
No, I agree with you that entirely. It is less expensive than a typical Porsche, and if they don't make the EV version like crazy expensive, then it'll pretty much be the only like small convertible EV out there.
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. You've been talking to Porsche a lot over the years. Have they said anything? Are they gonna? You think they're gonna call it? They like the Boxster EV because like the Taycan has been its own thing. So I would
Well, I know
expect
the
like
the
the Macan.
Volkswagen the Volkswagen Group has changed from going from ID number to ID what the old thing was, like the
Mhm.
Tiguan or the Golf. So they're talking about doing like an ID Golf or an ID Tiguan. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
better or worse, but that's what they're doing. So I think Porsche may also do something similar to that, where they might say the Boxster EV, or because at some point it's just going to be the Boxster and it's going to be
Yeah.
electric, and so maybe
Yeah,
that's
that's true. But my problem with that has always been, that in the meantime, like if they make it like $20,000 more expensive than the regular Boxster,
right. It's
it's such a bad look for EVs and for buyers. They don't like that. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but it's definitely gonna be more expensive than the gasoline Boxster. And I think the Boxster, the gasoline Boxster, is going to stay for a while, most likely, unless Porsche really gets aggressive about this. Because if you look at their Panamera cell versus their Taycan cell, like it's clear who's the clear winner there. So maybe they take a note on that and they move in that direction. But I don't know. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, and Porsche is behind. They
Mm,
expected to have the Macan out last year, or yeah, 2022. So that whole PPE platform, I think, is a little late.
mm-hmm.
And I think the Boxster was supposed to be after the Macan, and it looks like they're both trending for around the same kind of release. So it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to watch.
Yeah. Quick news on Sono Motors that came out today. We did report on the fact that they were like making this big push to try to save the Sion EV, so their solar electric car. They have officially given up on this, so they're not going to move forward with that approach. They're going to switch back to only offering their business-to-business solar tech, which I think is probably the best move to do here, because they were having some issues to bring that to market, extremely capital extensive and all that, obviously. But it's another crowd-funded EV project that hits the ground. The EV part of the project is dying here. the company is surviving through their business to business solar tech, which I think makes a lot of sense because they're going to be doing things like solar trailers on electric trucks and solar roof for electric buses and all that, things that makes a ton of sense. And they already have the technology tested and everything, and it's on vehicle right now, so they can start to, create revenue right away and make it a real business. I think I'm gonna give a big thumbs up at the company on this because I think they gave it the best shot. Like they were trying to do the right thing for customers, and they gave like one big effort, and it just didn't pan out. But we wish them the best in the new type of business that they're going for right now. But
Yeah,
it
and
is the
we
first like crowdfunding project that is completely dead now. So keep an
yeah
eye out on the other ones because the other ones might the same thing might happen too.
yeah, and we visited the Sono Motors headquarters in Munich when we were there, and just a great group of people there. We were kind of at the time and since we were like, well, why are they building a car when there's already EVs around that they
Mhm.
could just put their technology into? And hopefully that's what they're going to do at this point. Like maybe we'll see, like not a Chevy Bolt, but maybe like like a Renault Zoe or something with a solar roof and solar sides, and that'll be how they get those things to market. But building their own cars seemed like a lot of extra work.
Yeah, and it feels like they were like they were jumping to something too quickly because you're right. It might happen. Like they might eventually partner with a consumer car company. Like I assume you use Renault because it's European. Um, but obviously the technology makes the most sense with the bigger surface area that you have. So right now the trucks and the buses make the most sense, and that's what they're going after. But as they refine the technology, lower the cost, yeah, I could see definitely that happening. And yeah, it would make so much more sense to just partner with someone that knows how to build a car already.
Yeah, maybe like RVs like Winnebago or
Oh yeah, that's probably the best idea actually. Yeah.
yeah. All
All
right,
right, let's jump into the comments before we move on.
all right. Bolts and bolts. Has anyone done a survey in Europe on the supercharger program to determine reception, such as wait times, happiness of Tesla versus non-Tesla owners, etc.? I don't think there's been anything published, but anecdotally, I think I've heard good things. What about you, Fred?
Yeah, that's the thing, though. If Volts is talking about that to try to get some anticipation of what's going to happen in the U.S., the U.S. is going to be different than Europe. Like first of all, their third-party charging network, CCS charging network, are already much better than what we have in the U.S. So there were less incentive for non-Tesla EV owners in Europe to go to a supercharger network. Um, and also, it's not completely open just yet. It's still some select few stations, so it's not a complete opening in Europe. But yeah, for what I've heard so far, I haven't heard any major complaints from local owners. The biggest one being that there's still some stations that are not optimized for having a charge port that's not exactly at the back on the driver's side, which is where it should be anyway. So that has been a concern, but we've seen Tesla kind of starting to address that in Europe with new uh, design of where to put the supercharger. So it's more like instead of being like one row of chargers where you have to park on either side, they are lining them up across a bigger surface of parking lot. So you can come in on either side and not block. You can just choose one or the other station rather. So that's probably the smartest move for now, other than actually building one with a longer cable. But somehow Tesla doesn't seem to be doing that. But yeah, in the US, it's going to be different. So we're going to have to see how Tesla does it.
All right, Dan Oberstay. I hope that opening the superchargers to others will lead Tesla to assigning charger slots via the app. Queuing at stations has been up to the politeness of those waiting, not the greatest system. I agree. I think
Yeah.
they could do something like that. I've always when you go to a supercharger, it's kind of like urinal rules where you go as far away from the guy parked
Yeah.
as you can. And, like when there's one at every other station, usually that means that because Tesla divides it up, like every other station is on a different circuit. So if somebody's at every other station, it's like hammering one circuit and another circuit's low, so
Well,
everybody
that's
gets a
not
little bit.
true with the new V3, but yeah, for all the others, yeah,
Yeah, so
it's a
it would be
problem.
nice if Tesla could kind of like, hey, you're coming in now, you're coming in, with an older car that can't charge that fast. You should go here. They could do a lot of logic there that would make the service a little bit better. And then add to that, like when the Chevy Bolts start rolling up to the superchargers, then they can kind of put those on the slower chargers or whatever. So, um, yeah, so I think Tesla could do that. That would be actually pretty cool if they could. What do you think?
No, I think it makes a ton of sense. It seems completely feasible too with the app. Like uh, the app tells you if it's full. So if it's full, it just and you arrive there, the app knows you're there. So it's not like you're queuing up just to screw with people. Like you need to be in the area, I guess. And yeah, you see, it would be the app would prompt you like take a number basically, and that's it. And Tesla can also implement to make sure that it works. They could also not let the other person, like if someone is trying to cut in front or whatever, you could
Right.
not let them charge. Like they have that capacity too. So yeah, no, it's a great idea from Dan, and it's completely implementable.
All right. Joven says, what do you think would happen when the value of Tesla's knowing that the end of 2024 superchargers are available for most? I'm thinking it would turn upside down. Tesla's dropping in value over time. So that's the argument that a lot of
Nah.
Tesla investors mostly are worried about, that Tesla has this incredible asset in the supercharger network, and that sharing it is going to make them kind of even or something else with other automakers. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. We talked before about how could be a revenue stream for Tesla. It's also a good marketing
Well,
point.
sorry, so
Hmm.
I think you might be talking about the value of the car. So it's dropping in. Oh, you might be right. I might be mistaken. Because that
Yeah,
those are two like sort of separate concern. Like like your car value might be like, especially if you have like unlimited supercharger right now. If like other
that's
like
true.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it remains to be seen. Certainly some variables involved there.
But I think to
Um,
your point though, I think you're right about the value of Tesla itself, the company. I don't think that's going to be affected in any way. Uh, the cars, though, yeah, maybe a little bit of value loss there, but very minimal, I think. And other than the unlimited supercharger, but as we reported just 2-3 weeks ago, whatever, it looks like Tesla wants to recall all those cars. Basically, they want to bring them back, and
yeah,
once they have them back, Tesla can just it's in their possession. They can just okay, this car is not unlimited supercharging anymore.
yeah. I wonder how hard they'll go to get those back. Like, I wonder if they'll
Yeah, I have
start upping it
five
to
thousand
10,000.
dollars right now. Yeah,
Right. It's like waiting at the airline airport when
yeah,
they're like, all
giving you
right, you
some.
take the next flight for $500.
Yeah.
All right, Nanda Holes, did Tesla use the E-Class Mercedes as the first Model S frame? I don't
I don't remember
remember
that to
that.
be honest.
I know they
Tesla
used the
did
steering
build
wheel.
Paul. Yeah, Tesla. Yeah, that's right. They did use the Mercedes steering wheel. They did build powertrains for the Mercedes B class,
Right.
but that was for the B class. That was not for a Tesla vehicle. And they might have maybe Nanda knows something I don't or I don't remember. It's been a long time.
Yeah. All right, Dan's back. I don't know if you can say that the repeater camera actually points outward more. It could be that the camera angle was totally different. Old shot looks side on, new shot looks from behind.
That might exaggerate the look of it, but if you look at the actual packaging of it, the packaging itself looks like the camera points a lot more. So regardless on what angle you look at the packaging, if you just single out the packaging, it does look like the angle is different. But you're right, it might accentuate it from the camera angle itself. The camera that took the picture. I mean.
All right, here's an interlude with a weird question. I just get more and more confused about the threat that the woke represent to Elon's mission. It's just so counterintuitive to me. Yeah,
I mean, it's political capture. Like it's as simple as that. Like, I mean, I do subscribe to the idea that like, yeah, I mean, the cancel culture and all that has its issues, but to the degree that Elon presents it, of like this is on par with nuclear warfare and all that, like it's just complete nonsense. He's the left was a little bit too hard on Elon for a while. They hit him too hard, and now he's hitting back. That's all it is, the way I see it.
Yep. Kyle Rash, question: do you have any comments on the Ioniq 6 U.S. prices, $43K base, and up significantly for the long-range all-wheel drive, or did you discuss last week? I don't think we discussed last week, but
No,
we did see
I
those
skipped.
prices come out.
Oh, I didn't see them in my search for the articles this week, but I remember we posted it in the room. Yeah, it's a good pricing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of on par with the Model 3, and I think this is a more premium. You know, uh, it's got a lot of range at the higher end. The long range or the rear wheel drive version, it looks really nice. The premium interior. I think it compares well with the Model 3.
Hmm.
A little bit
I
bigger,
don't
I
know if
think, too.
everyone like the design. I'm okay with it. I'm not a giant fan. But I'm okay with the design.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people love it. So,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Porsche inspired, I guess, or something.
Mhm.
All right, David Piern Monroe says hardware 4 can't be retrofitted because of the lack of space. Well, we talked about this quite a bit,
Yeah,
and
Monroe is a bit behind on that.
yeah,
Elon said it, and Green confirmed it when he saw it the first time, and Monroe is working off Green's thing. So
yeah. Ron King, what would you like to see revealed next Wednesday on Investor Day?
ooh, ooh,
That could be a whole show.
yeah. Maybe we're gonna do a preview show. I'm gonna do a preview post about it for sure. Maybe we can do a preview show
Yeah,
off
that'd
of
be
that
fun.
post.
Or maybe we'll do like a play-by-play. We'll do a
Yeah,
show watching the show.
yeah. When is that? When is the first?
Wednesday?
Uh, it's the Wednesday. I don't know
Yeah.
what time it is though, but we'll look it up for sure. Yeah, it is Wednesday. Yeah, that's right. It's February. It's the 28th. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting for sure. I mean, you made it clear what it's gonna be about. It's gonna be about scale. It's gonna be about the new vehicle platform, which is part of how they're gonna achieve scale.
Yep.
I'm excited for it. The details, though, yeah, we can keep that for the next show, maybe closer to it.
Dan says, isn't the Boxster named after the gas engine in the car? Yes, the Boxster engine in the car is why Porsche called it that, but Porsche
Yeah,
has Porsche has the turbo version of
yeah.
the Taycan, so
And where's the turbo on that?
yeah. So Seattle, Vienna, do you think any of these so-called battery breakthroughs will pose serious threat to Tesla?
I mean, I haven't seen a serious battery breakthrough that is anywhere near close to caramelization anytime soon. And then once you get it to caramelization, you need to ramp it up. And yeah, so and Tesla is keeping a close eye on all that too. And and then if you do have a battery breakthrough that you want to bring to production and you want to have the biggest impact with, which automakers you gonna sell it to sell the most of it possible? Well, the automaker that has the highest production capacity for electric vehicle right now. So I don't think Tesla is in any kind of trouble regarding that. And you have to be so careful about these battery breakthroughs because there's so much nonsense out there that people peddle because there's a lot of money going into it. And
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
see,
battery stuff out there that you can't scale or you can't scale
yeah,
easily. So it's not only about the battery technology, but it's also like, can you make a billion of them? And so far, we haven't seen much.
nope.
All right. What do you think EVs will be like in 2030 in terms of price, charging speed, range?
Probably just like the current gasoline car market, just taking over the whole thing basically, and all the price range that you see right now, all the different segments, they all gonna have just they're all gonna be electric. And maybe we're gonna start seeing more like different range options for people. Like some people getting more comfortable with a 100 miles car and for city driving, and then especially if the advent of self-driving around that time, that could have an impact too, an impact on ownership, on how much you use your car versus how much you use services of just per mile. It could change a lot, but in terms of the actual technology itself, the kind of car, yeah, I mean it's going to progress a little bit in terms of range. Probably in terms of pricing, it's just going to be like wider availability in all the different segments. Speed, the charging speed, yeah, that's going to be a big one. I think you're going to see an improvement there. But we already see some pretty decent number from a lot of automakers now. I think you maybe can improve the drop off a little bit, like make that a little bit later in the charging for some case. But for commercial, consumer passenger cars, I don't see like any type of megawatt charging being necessary and all that. I think what we see right now is maybe you can bump it up to closer to like a 400 kilowatts, but you don't need to go too crazy with that.
Yeah, and I think another big thing is the having chargers everywhere, like fast chargers. People won't be at, they won't need 400-mile vehicles because they know that there's a charger at every off ramp on the highway. That they'll be more comfortable with 200 or 300 miles, and then those battery packs will be smaller and lighter, not dramatically so, maybe by 2030, but they'll be. Everybody will be more comfortable with EVs. They'll be a little bit lighter batteries. They'll be a little, probably a lot cheaper at that point. So
solar on top. Do you think that's going to be a thing?
I mean, you can put solar on top. It's going to add, a few miles here and there. Once it's so inexpensive to add that it's negligible. Sure, why not? But it's not like going to be the main way people get miles into their
charge.
car.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
All right, Reflect the Sun. We have 2008 Mazda 3. I think Franz did a design before joining the 2006.
Yeah, I saw that people mentioned that, but I cannot see how Franz's old job would have a major impact on that.
I don't think so either. Yeah, it's been so long. I think the 25,000K Tesla looks awesomely rugged and crossover-ish for a hatchback. I think it could be real. Yeah, I mean,
it looks a lot like the original design drawing, really.
Yeah. All right, last question so far is, do you think Tesla will ever integrate 4D imaging radar with its cameras? 4D.
So I would have to get a quick refresher on what they mean exactly by 4D, because I've seen the term being used interchangeably between that and like high definition radars. So I don't know, the new Phoenix that Tesla is implementing right now, I think they're talking about high definition rather than 4D, but I would need to have a quick explain to me, like I'm 5 years old, what the difference between 4D and high resolution radar.
All right, now the last question. Otto Lazzi, what are your predictions for something new at the March 1st event? I have one thing that we haven't talked about in a while. Tesla's been talking about the HVAC system. I think maybe they can talk about that. Maybe that's part of their master plan, part 3. We haven't heard about that in a while. So.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's what I said. Yeah. They are announcing the master plan part 3 at the event. Master plan part 3 we know is focusing on scale, but I would assume the master plan part 3 is kind of like the last leg of the plan. And then you're right, Elon did mention the HVAC could be in there. So yeah, that could be interesting. I just don't know how far along they would be in the program right now. We haven't normally we hear a few things coming out here and there, so we haven't heard much about that. So that would be my question there. But of course, the big new thing, if there's something new announced there, we know that the new platform is gonna be announced there. So the big question is is the first vehicle on that platform going to be announced there, or revealed there at least? Reveal is announced. It's already been announced. So,
yeah.
So reveal is the thing. So.
All right, and
I don't know. I'm leaning towards yes right now with all the rumors and everything coming out these days, but I've nothing concrete to report.
Yeah, and then there's a few people clarifying the 3 dimensions plus time is the 4D, how radar sees motion, time in third space.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now I know what you understand. Yeah. Yeah, the 4D is the one you can basically it's almost like LiDAR, you can get a point type map out of it. Yeah, as close to LiDAR as it gets. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard. Elon told us when they made the switch to vision, he told us that if Tesla goes back to a radar, it would be because they have a high definition one.
High definition. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't say 4D. But yeah, it could be in the future. We're talking about 4.0 being release likely next week, but you can bet that this is going to have 5.0 and 6.0 and so on and so on.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. All right, well, that's everything for us this week. We appreciate every single one of you that's been watching the show this week. If you do enjoy the show, you can give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, whatever platform you're at. It makes a big difference. It helps the show grow. We appreciate you for doing it. If you're listening on your audio podcast, if you can give us a 5-star review, that helps a ton. We had some great one last week. Thank to you guys for writing those. And we're going to see you same place, same times next week.